You call this a death world? That's adorable. The first warning came in the form of a message, crackling through the comms of the Galactic Union outpost on VX 937. A jungle moon classified as an extreme hazard world, one of the most dangerous in the known universe. Acidic storms, shifting tectonic plates, predators that could phase through solid matter. It was the kind of place that turned even the most hardened survivalists into bones within weeks. Yet the message was clear. Human vessel requesting permission to land. Silence gripped the outpost command center. The officers, mostly Kthari and Drakvar, exchanged uncertain glances. The Union had long known of humans, but they were still an enigma. Stories of their tenacity spread across the stars like myths. Commander Zelthun, a towering Kthari with dark iridescent scales, leaned forward. "Confirm that transmission," he ordered. The comms officer, a smaller, wiry Drakvar, gulped. "Confirmed, sir." A Terran vessel, unarmed. Zelthun's frills twitched. Unarmed? No species came to VX 937 without weapons. "Human ship," Zelthun said into the transmitter. "This world is not meant for your kind. Turn back before it claims you." There was a brief pause, then a voice came through, calm, almost amused. "Oh, that's cute." Before Zelthun could demand clarification, the human ship, a rust-covered, ancient-looking hunk of metal, cut through the thick storm clouds and descended toward the surface. The outpost sensors screamed with warnings, the heat shields flaring against the atmosphere. "They're going to crash," the comms officer muttered. But they didn't. The human pilot pulled off a maneuver that should have liquefied most species, touching down in the thick jungle with impossible precision. And then the real insanity began. The human stepped out, dressed in a reinforced suit that looked laughably inadequate for the planet's dangers. No heavy armor. No exoframe. Just a worn-out jacket, boots that had seen better days, and a backpack slung over his shoulder like he was about to take a casual hike through a death world. Zelthun's squad approached, weapons drawn. "Identify yourself," he barked. The human grinned. "Jack Carter. Explorer. Thought I'd stretch my legs." The outpost guard stiffened. "Stretch your legs?" one of them hissed. Carter glanced around at the roiling storms and razor-winged predators circling overhead. "Yeah. Taking the sights." Before Zelthun could respond, the jungle moved. A monstrous beast, 3 meters tall, all claws and phasing mandibles, burst from the foliage with a shriek, lunging straight at Carter. Zelthun reached for his rifle, too late. The human moved first. A blur of motion, a twist of his body, and then, crack. The creature's neck snapped. It collapsed to the ground, twitching. Carter barely looked fazed. Zelthun's squad stared in disbelief. The human wiped his hands on his pants. Thought it'd put up more of a fight." Zelthun's voice was slow, deliberate. "That was a Zerithian apex predator. It hunts entire colonies." Carter raised an eyebrow. "This is what you guys are scared of?" He nudged the corpse with his foot. "I've seen raccoons meaner than this." Zelthun didn't know what a raccoon was. But at that moment he realized something far more terrifying. Humans were built for death worlds. And they weren't impressed. Zelthun had faced horrors. He had commanded forces against the flesh-eating Wraithborn, survived the black hole siege of Veldros 9, and even walked through the acid storms of Drachma. But nothing, had prepared him for a human casually calling VX 97 adorable. The corpse of the Zerithian apex predator twitched at Carter's feet, its phasing mandibles still flickering between dimensions. The jungle, usually an ever-screaming pit of death, had gone silent. Even the planet itself seemed confused. Carter rolled his shoulders, looking unimpressed. "So, this is your big scary death world, huh?" Zelthun's frills twitched in disbelief. "That predator has wiped out entire Drakvar battalions." Carter shrugged. "Should have aimed for the head." Zelthun's second-in-command, a wiry Drakvar officer named Trellick, stepped forward. His species was known for their cold, analytical nature, but even he looked unnerved. "Human, you lack weapons. You lack armor. And yet, you killed a Zerithian apex with your bare hands." "How?" Carter sighed. "Look, I get it. You guys aren't used to my kind. But you've misclassified this planet." Zelthun narrowed his eyes. "Misclassified?" Carter waved his hand at the storm-ravaged landscape, the shifting tectonic plates, and the acidic rivers that carved trenches into the earth. "See, you think this place is a death world. I get it. Big nasty creatures, crazy weather, toxic atmosphere." He smirked. "But buddy, I'm from Earth." Zelthun didn't respond. Carter continued, stretching. "VX 97? This is a rough camping trip. Now that's a death world. Zelthun exchanged glances with Trellick. The idea was absurd. Earth wasn't classified as a death world. It wasn't even a high-risk environment. How dangerous can your world possibly be? Zelthun asked, skepticism lacing his voice. Carter chuckled. A dark, knowing laugh. Let's see. He started counting on his fingers. Supervolcanoes capable of wiping out civilizations? Check. Hurricanes that can rip apart cities? Check. Animals that evolved specifically to kill us? Oh yeah, we got plenty. And let's not even talk about Earth's past extinction events. Giant lizards the size of your warships? We had those. And don't even get me started on the humans. Zelthun blinked. You are a human. Carter grinned. Yeah. And that's the scary part. A screeching howl interrupted them. The jungle suddenly reanimated, shaking with movement as dozens of red glowing eyes flickered between the foliage. The rest of the pack had arrived. More apex predators larger than the first. Their phasing mandibles glitched in and out of reality, their limbs rippling with unnatural speed. Zelthun raised his rifle. We need to retreat. The outpost. Carter sighed. Retreat? Nah. He cracked his knuckles. Time for round 2. The predators attacked. A blur of claws and phasing teeth shot toward Carter, but the human moved faster. He sidestepped effortlessly, letting the first creature's strike carve into the earth. Then he grabbed it by the throat. Zelthun's mind broke as Carter lifted the beast. It thrashed, screeching in confusion as the human slammed it into a tree hard enough to snap the trunk in half. Another one lunged. Carter ducked, spun and punched. A fist, bare flesh and bone, met alien chitin. The predator's head exploded. Zelthun and his soldiers stared. No species, none, should have been able to do what they were witnessing. But Carter wasn't done. 2 more charged him at once. He grinned like this was fun. The first lunged. Carter grabbed its arm, twisted and ripped it clean off. The creature howled in agony, ichor spraying from the wound. The second snapped its phasing jaws. Carter caught them mid-bite, holding them apart with raw strength. It phased, trying to shift between dimensions. Carter held on. The beast flickered. Was trying to escape. Trying to use physics itself to get away from the monster that was holding it. Carter snarled. Nope. Then he tore the thing in half. The rest of the predators ran. Zelthun had never seen them retreat before. They were the apex species of VX-97. Nothing hunted them. But the human wasn't prey. Carter exhaled, brushing dirt off his jacket. Well, that was fun. Zelthun's rifle hung limply at his side. He realized he had never even fired a shot. Trellick, still frozen, muttered, "This is impossible." Carter looked at him, amused. "Buddy, I haven't even started." The jungle was dead silent again. Even the wind seemed afraid. Zelthun swallowed. "Human, what are you?" Carter grinned. "Like I said, Earth is the real death world." Zelthun felt his mind fraying at the edges. The way Carter ripped apart the apex predators, like they were fragile insects, had shattered everything he thought he knew about biology, physics, and common sense. And yet, Carter stood there, completely relaxed, as if this were nothing more than a light workout. Trellick hadn't moved. His normally calculated, cold mind seemed stuck in an endless loop of does not compute. Zelthun, still gripping his rifle, cleared his throat. "Carter." His voice came out hoarse. "You just killed an entire apex pack, with your bare hands?" Carter shrugged. "Yeah. And? Zelthun felt his frills flare in exasperation. "That's not possible. Even in powered armor, it would take a full squadron hours to clear that many. And you?" Carter waved him off. "Nah man. I keep telling you this isn't a death world." He glanced at the shattered remains of the predators. "If your apex species dies that easily, then this place is just mildly inconvenient." Trellick suddenly spoke. His voice was eerily quiet. "Human." Carter turned to him. "Yeah." The Drakvar officer finally looked up. "You said Earth is a death world." His mandibles clicked in thought. "You said your own species is one of the most dangerous things on it?" Carter smirked. "Oh yeah. Absolutely." Zelthun narrowed his eyes. "Explain." Carter cracked his neck, his grin never fading. "All right. You guys ever heard of persistence hunting?" Zelthun hesitated. "No." Trellick shook his head. Carter clapped his hands together. "Okay, so picture this. You're some ancient predator. A perfect killing machine. Faster than a human. Stronger. Better senses. You see some weak, squishy primate and think, easy meal. His grin widened. You're wrong. A chill ran down Zelthun's spine. Carter continued. See, humans? We're not the strongest. We're not the fastest. But what we are, is the most relentless. He crouched down, picking up a stick and twirling it between his fingers. A predator sees a human and thinks, I can outrun this thing. And sure, maybe it can, for a few minutes. But hours? Days. He snapped the stick in half. It'll collapse from exhaustion before we do. Because humans? We don't stop. Silence. Even the jungle, despite its unnatural shifting horrors, felt smaller. Carter stood back up. You think your apex predators are scary? Let me tell you something. Humans hunted apex predators into extinction. For fun. We were so good at it that when we ran out of things to hunt, we started fighting each other. Zelthun's grip tightened around his rifle. He had seen war. Had witnessed entire species fall to extinction. But this was different. This wasn't a history of struggle. This was a history of dominance. Trellick finally spoke. You're lying. Carter laughed. Buddy, you still don't get it, do you? He stepped forward, eyes glinting. You think your Deathworld is dangerous? It's got rules. His voice dropped to a near whisper. Earth doesn't. Zelthun felt an involuntary shudder crawl up his spine. And then, the ground rumbled. A titan awakened. Zelthun's instincts screamed as the ground beneath them split open. A jagged, gaping maw of obsidian teeth rose from the earth, dripping with molten ichor. The jungle collapsed around it, trees vanishing into the abyss. Ah, Carter muttered. Finally, something interesting. The Titan of VX 937 had arrived. Zelthun had never seen one in person. No one had. The species was so dangerous that even the apex predators avoided them. It was kilometers tall. A walking mountain of chitin, armor, and liquid fire. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural, cosmic hunger. Trellick grabbed his arm. We need to run. Carter rolled his shoulders. Nah. Zelthun hissed in disbelief. Carter, that thing is an extinction-level threat. The last recorded attempt to kill one took an entire fleet. It cannot be fought. Carter grinned. Oh yeah? Watch this. Then, he ran straight at it. The Titan screamed. A wave of pure force blasted through the jungle, vaporizing the landscape. Zelthun had to brace against a rock as entire trees were ripped from their roots. Carter? He didn't stop. He sprinted toward the creature, leaping onto one of its massive, spiked limbs. Hey big guy, he yelled. You ever fought something that fights back? The Titan swung. A claw, large enough to crush a warship, descended. Carter jumped. The claw slammed into the earth, shattering the ground where he had just been. But the human was already in the air, spinning, and then he punched it. A single devastating blow. To the face. The Titan stumbled. The impact was so violent that a shockwave tore through the jungle. Zelthun's mind refused to process it. The Titan, the most feared entity on this planet, reeled from a single hit. Carter landed. All right, he said, cracking his knuckles. Time to get serious. The Titan roared. Carter charged. From the safety of cover, Zelthun watched the impossible. Carter dodged each monstrous strike like he knew where they were coming from. He was faster than something that wasn't supposed to be outrun. Stronger than something that wasn't supposed to be overpowered. And then, he climbed it, hand over hand, scaling its molten hide like it was a playground structure. The Titan shrieked. It clawed at itself, trying to remove the unstoppable menace now perched on its back. Carter grinned. Ain't so tough when something fights back, huh? Then he grabbed its skull, and started pulling. Zelthun's entire world shattered. Because the Titan, the god of this world, was losing. Carter's muscles tensed. A crack split the air. The Titan convulsed, howling as its own bones fractured beneath his grip. And then, he ripped its head off. The Titan's massive body collapsed. Carter landed on the ground, grinning. Well, that was fun. Zelthun couldn't breathe. Trellick's mandibles hung open. Carter dusted himself off. So, what were we talking about? Oh yeah. He pointed at the corpse. You still call this a death world? Zelthun couldn't move. His mind refused to process what he had just witnessed. Trellick stood beside him, mandibles slack, body completely frozen. Carter, the human, stood atop the corpse of a Titan, casually wiping his hands on his pants like he had just finished fixing a minor mechanical issue. The once terrifying creature, the apex predator of the planet, lay motionless, its massive skull missing, its molten blood pooling across the shattered landscape. Zelthun barely realized he was gripping his rifle so tightly his claws had dented the casing. Carter looked at them and raised an eyebrow. You too good? Silence. Then, Trellick let out a low, rasping sound. It took Zelthun a moment to realize it was laughter. You're a monster, human? The Drakvar officer shook his head in utter disbelief. A walking extinction event. And you act like it's just another Tuesday. Carter smirked. Buddy, you don't even know the half of it. Zelthun's mind reeled. He had spent his entire military career studying Deathworlds, analyzing their threats, assessing planetary hazards. But nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to what he had just witnessed. This wasn't just dominance. This was casual superiority. Zelthun took a shuddering breath. Carter. His voice barely held together. This is insane. What you just did is impossible. A Titan is supposed to be unkillable. And yet he gestured to the ruined corpse of the most feared creature on VX-937. You just... Carter grinned. Ripped its head off? Yeah, that was fun. Zelthun couldn't look away. The words sank into his mind like lead. This was fun. This wasn't even serious combat for him. Trellick clicked his mandibles, his eyes locked on Carter with an expression Zelthun had never seen before. It took him a second to recognize it. Fear. The Drakvar, one of the most cold, logical species in the galaxy, was afraid. Carter hopped down from the Titan's corpse, rolling his shoulders. So what now? He stretched, letting out a content sigh. You guys still think this place is a death world? Zelthun stared at him, his mind racing. VX-937 was a classified hazard zone. No ships entered without clearance. No soldiers deployed without extensive preparation. No species survived long without brutal adaptation. And yet, Carter had just rewritten everything. Zelthun shook his head, trying to collect himself. Carter. I need answers. The human raised an eyebrow. Sure, shoot. Zelthun hesitated. Your biology. Your strength. Your everything. This isn't just toughness. This is something else entirely. Trellick nodded sharply. No species should be capable of that. No species should be able to fight something that large. Carter grinned. Oh, you want to talk biology? All right. He cracked his knuckles. First off, you guys ever heard of osteoblasts? Zelthun blinked. What? Carter continued. Bones heal stronger after damage. Muscle fibers? Same deal. Tear them apart, they come back thicker. He flexed his arm. Human bodies aren't just resilient. They're adaptive. Trellick narrowed his eyes. That doesn't explain your raw power. Carter smirked. Right. See, here's the fun part. Most species have limiters. Biological safety switches to keep them from pushing past their breaking points. Humans? His grin widened. Ours are optional. Zelthun felt sick. That's not all. Carter pointed at the Titan's corpse. Your predators? They're built for quick ambush kills. They rely on sheer overwhelming force to end a fight instantly. He patted his chest. Humans? We don't fight like that. We fight dirty. We fight to win. Trellick tilted his head. You mean tactics? Carter laughed. Oh, you have no idea. His grin turned razor sharp. See, when humans fight something bigger, we don't just fight it. His eyes gleamed with something primal. We turn the planet against it. Zelthun stiffened. Explain. Carter gestured to the battlefield around them. Look around. The terrain, the weather, the environment, all of it? Tools. He pointed at the molten pits of Titan blood. You think we just punch something that big to death? Nah. If I wasn't in the mood for a workout, I'd set up pitfalls, acid traps, fire zones. Trellick's mandibles twitched. You're saying that even if you weren't superhuman, you'd still find a way to win? Carter's grin widened. That's the thing about humans. He took a step forward. We don't give up. We don't stop. And when something threatens us, his voice dropped to a whisper. We burn their entire world to the ground. Zelthun suddenly understood. It wasn't just about strength or durability. It was mindset. This species, these humans, didn't just survive death worlds. They conquered them. Carter stretched again, looking almost bored. Well, that was fun. But I'm hungry. You guys got anything to eat? Zelthun couldn't move. Trellick was still staring, his mandibles twitching like he was trying to compute something too vast to fit into his mind. Carter raised an eyebrow. What? Zelthun exhaled. Then he laughed. It was a laugh of pure disbelief. You? He shook his head. You are the most terrifying thing I have ever met. And you're worried about lunch? Carter shrugged. Hey, gotta keep my calories up. You think I can do all this on an empty stomach? Trellick groaned, rubbing his temples. This is impossible. Carter smirked. No, my dude. He pointed at the fallen titan, at the jungle, at the entire shattered landscape. This was easy. Zelthun let out a long breath. He finally lowered his rifle, shaking his head in pure awe. You humans, he muttered. You aren't normal. Carter grinned. You're damn right. Fade to black. And